What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com. I want us all to take a moment and admire this new glass whiteboard. I'm super excited about it. It is the nicest whiteboard I've ever gotten, and y'all know me and my whiteboards. This is going to be the whiteboard wisdom section, and we're going to talk about the building phase. So I've done a few building / keto bulking updates. Talked about the DEXA scan in a prior video. I talked about the volume and the training and how that's increased over time. This one's going to be a graphical illustration of my calories, my body fat percentage, what the forecast is, kind of where I'm taking things going forward. And I'm doing this a little bit different than I've done in prior bulks. So in the past, I'm not a big fan of mini cuts. That's a whole another video in itself. But if you're trying to build muscle, you need to be in a caloric surplus for enough time to build muscle. And you can't accomplish that if you're doing like a cut every 6 months. It takes time to build quality muscle. So I don't normally compete until I've been in a surplus for 2 or even 3 years at a time. Again, that's a total another video. We'll talk about that later. But in the past, I've oftentimes just continually increased my calories. And there's definitely a point of diminishing returns with that. If y'all can remember way back when I did my 6 months of 6,000 calories, it wound up only being 3 months of 6,000 calories because it was just too aggressive, too much for too long. And like I said, there's a point of diminishing returns. So I'm kind of mixing things up a little bit this time. Let's dive into it. This bottom axis here, the horizontal axis, is all about time. We've got from January, February, March, is basically on a monthly basis going forward. This axis is going to show a few different things, but I just have it mapped out from a calorie standpoint. 2.5 calories here being the starting point. Red is going to be the calories. Blue is going to be illustrated for strength. Metabolism is the green line, and body fat percentage is the black line. So again, depending on how much muscle you have, depending on how much you're eating, depending on what your NEAT activity is like, you're going to have a maintenance calorie window. So like you go to a macro tracker online, and no macro tracker is perfect, but you go to any macro tracker and it's going to give you a maintenance calorie intake. You're probably going to have a range of, you're going to have a window within that maintenance. Like it may be a little higher, maybe a little lower. The more muscle you have, the broader that maintenance normally is. So for me, I'm not going to fluctuate much in weight within like a freaking 500 to 600 calorie window of my maintenance. So that's a pretty broad window. For me, that's going to be around, 2,800 calories. Honestly, probably up to about 3,500 calories. Anywhere in that window, my weight's going to hold pretty constant. So we'll just assume that everything's starting at about 2.5 calories, so 2,500 calories. That's on the very lower end of my maintenance. I'd honestly probably be losing a little bit weight there. But at that, my body fat is somewhere around 10%, depending on how long I'm at that intake. So being in a surplus, being in a bulk, I'm trying to increase my calories, I'm trying to increase my metabolism, I'm gonna try to increase my lean muscle tissue, lift harder, have more volume, and add more muscle. When you do that, more than likely you can expect a little bit of body fat gain. So you can see this black line, which illustrates body fat, is steadily going up. Not crazy, but it's definitely going up. So it is currently April. Throughout the months of January, February, and March, I was in a pretty aggressive caloric intake. So I went from about 2,500 calories up to about 3,800 calories. That's why it's kind of been this pretty steep line here. When you increase your calories, simultaneously increasing your lifting, you're adding more lean muscle tissue. So this is going to be that blue line, which is steadily going up there. And that's also going to have a corresponding effect on your metabolic rate. Your metabolism is going to increase. And the amount of calories you can consume without any adverse effect as a result of you having a higher metabolism is going to be illustrated there as well. That's why my body fat didn't just drastically shoot up. If my lifting didn't increase, if my metabolism didn't increase, and I just increased calories, then I probably would have seen a steeper incline in body fat as well. But that didn't happen. It was a very gradual incline. Now, here we are in March. I'm like I said, being pretty aggressive. I'm up to about 3,800 calories, and there's a point of diminishing returns with the metabolism. So it's like you can just keep exponentially growing your metabolic rate, and there's also a point at which you're not really going to get continually stronger at an exponential rate, and that body fat is going to start being what grows the fastest. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm getting too aggressive with the calories. My strength training isn't improving that much to correlate. My metabolism isn't just getting magically faster either, and my body fat is getting higher. So a lot of people get to this phase and they automatically go into a mini cut because they feel like they've got a little bit more around the midsection, they don't feel as good in their skin, and they automatically just go into a mini cut. I don't want to do that because I'm in a caloric surplus. I'm trying to build muscle. I'm not going to build muscle if I just go right into a deficit. I save the deficit for when I'm in a competition prep, which will be in a couple years. So rather than going into a deficit, what I want to do is just simply scale back. So I've got a period of time here over the next month or two where I just let things equalize. I go more towards a maintenance. I don't do a super aggressive intake on my food. I continue to train hard and heavy, and my strength is not probably going to go crazy high during that period, but basically think of it like a month or two of like deload, in which I'm not lifting much lighter, but I'm just trying to maintain the lifts that I've done up to this point. So for instance, with my 8-day rotational heavy hypertrophy split, I've gotten to a nice threshold in which all of my heavy lifts are at 10 reps. So like today I did sumo deadlifts, for instance, and I did 10 reps at the final set, which is like 12 sets of 405. Rather than trying to increase that over the next couple months, I'm just going to try and maintain that for the next couple months. Focusing on form, making sure form is flawless, and just kind of really stabilizing that foundation and giving myself a good base in which to grow in the future. So I'm in a span for the next couple months, probably 2 or 3 months, in which I'm not going to be super aggressive with my calories. I'm not going to be super aggressive with my progressive overload. I'm just going to focus on letting my body equalize, letting my strength foundation solidify, letting my metabolism level out. That's why you kind of see the green line kind of intertwining with the red line there. I'm trying to figure out what that sweet spot is. And then once I figure out what that sweet spot is, I've been at that maintenance or slight surplus for long enough to stabilize that foundation. Then I can start to go more into an aggressive phase going forward into the months of June, July, and August. Also, in August, that's when we're going to move to our new building, and I'm going to have a much bigger gym with room for more equipment, and I'm going to want to break all that new equipment in, so I'm going to go even heavier and harder because I've got new exercises to do. So I'm excited about that. But again, I want to take this time and not go into a deficit, just kind of let myself go more into a maintenance, but all the while focusing on form, letting my muscles and my strength and my markers in the gym kind of stabilize and figure out where I'm at with that and truly know where I'm at with that. And then focus on and during this time, keep in mind, I'm going to be kind of decreasing my calories above what the massive surplus I was at. So I'm not going into a deficit, I'm just kind of returning more towards an equilibrium point. And in doing that, while continuing to lift hard and heavy, my body fat, by definition, is going to go down a little bit. So over the next few months, I'm probably going to go, like right now I'm at about 15% body fat. I'll probably see that dip down to about 12% body fat. And it's not even going to be because I'm in a drastic deficit. I'm not really in a deficit. That's kind of where my body naturally gravitates towards, like a neat. My neat is going to be good. Everything's just going to be solid. I'm going to let my body stabilize, let everything equalize, and that's what I'm going to be at. I'll be feeling good throughout the summer months, and I'll transition into a more aggressive surplus going forward. So that's what I would recommend doing rather than a crazy drastic mini cut if you just want to let things, solidify before you go back into a building phase. All the while, this is still in a building phase technically. I'm just not being as aggressive with the calories or implementing the progressive overload. I'm just trying to stabilize everything I've built up to this point, make that foundation solid, and then get aggressive with it the next month. So there's that. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time.